Sometimes a book finds you in a moment of simple tradition, where families gather, stories are passed down, and small rituals carry big meaning. And some books remind us that celebration doesn't have to be grand to be memorable. It just has to be shared. I've got an author I'd like you to meet who brings a playful spark to heritage and holiday, inviting young readers to discover Hanukkah through the eyes of a dragon learning to cook, to spin, and to shine alongside family. In Dragon's Hanukkah, the familiar becomes magical, and the magical becomes familiar, making tradition feel both timeless and brand new. Stick around, because you'll not only learn more about this book, you'll learn about the writing voyage this author took to create it.
Welcome to A Book Finds You podcast. This week's guest is A.L. Kaplan. Join us as she shares the inspiration behind her book, along with her writing process, routines, and challenges. And now, here's your host, best-selling author, Rob Jolles.
A.L. Kaplan is a member of the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers Association, is the Maryland Writers Association past president, and holds an MFA in sculpture from the Maryland Institute College of Art. When not writing or indulging in her fascination with wolves, she can be found at alkaplanauthor.com. It's all one word. Happy to have you with us and welcome to the show. Do I call you A.L.?
You can call me Amy.
All right, good. Well, it's a pleasure to have you here. So we start with our classic question that I promise I'm going to dig into that book, but I know you didn't find it. It found you. So how did this book find you?
This particular story woke me up in the middle of the night, already written, and I got up with my little pad of paper and in the dark wrote it down with only a little bit of fine-tuning needed afterwards. So it wrote itself.
You know, it's funny. I when we're writing and the longer novels, I tell writers, keep a tape recorder, keep your smartphone, keep something near that bed. Because you were smart. You wrote it down. You know how many times I've had brilliant ideas? There's actually a Seinfeld episode on this, but I've had a brilliant idea, what I thought was a brilliant idea, woke up and said, okay, there's no way I'm going to forget that idea. And all I can remember in the morning is I had a great idea. But I have no idea what the idea is. So good for you. We already learned something, audience, that just because you have a great idea in the middle of the night doesn't mean it's going to be there in the morning. You write it down. Okay, so you wrote it down. Let's talk about the book a little bit, okay? Besides the dream, was there something that inspired you to write about Hanukkah?
I've had people asking me for a while whether I was ever going to write something in the Jewish tradition. And until this one came about, I had no ideas. But one of the images that I used in the story, in the illustrations, was a picture of my great-great-grandfather's menorah, which was made in the early 1900s. And I have the whole history of that. I did the search on Maker's Marks, and that was a fun rabbit hole to go down.
I'm sure it was. Where did the dragon come into this rabbit hole? How did a dragon get in here?
Okay, so I have a little plastic dragon, little toy dragon that I've been bringing with me on writing retreats and taking pictures of him. So it all started with taking pictures of this little dragon, and next thing I knew, he came on trips with me. I have pictures of him on an airplane with my notepad, and the original plan was to use the photographs as the illustrations for the story. So that was the inspiration for that. But it was strongly suggested from both my husband and my youngest daughter, who said, "Mom, that's going to look tacky. You should draw them. You're really good at drawing."
Well, you are an artist, a sculptor, right?
Yes, I have a master's in fine arts, which my husband affectionately calls a degree in unemployability.
Well, my wife is an artist, so I certainly know the art world quite well. But my wife was a teacher at Sidwell for a dozen years, a teacher at Flint Hill, and then took the leap and became a professional artist maybe 25 years ago. But I'm well aware of the world of the artist.
Oh yeah.
All right, let's jump back into this book. What do you hope young readers, whether they celebrate Hanukkah or not, what do you hope they take away from this book?
Well, I hope that they can learn a little of the fun stuff. Hanukkah is really a fun holiday. It's not a super religious one. I mean, it's all about the oil and the lights and frying stuff
Right,
and that kind of thing. So this book in particular focuses on some of the things I did growing up and the way we celebrated at home with my children. And they did help us cook, which is why Dragon is helping make the latkes.
right. Good. Is this your first book?
No, I have a novel and three short stories that have been published.
Mm,
And I'm presently shopping around a young adult fantasy
good. Well,
that
then
has dragons in it.
when you're dragon.
Hence the toy dragon going on my writing
Right,
retreats.
right. And if we see any of this on YouTube, you'll see a dragon right behind her head, by the way. So this sets me up for the next question, which to me is, and I'm always kind of anxious about this one. How do you know when an idea is worth pursuing? So you got this dream, and it seems powerful. And in the morning, or maybe your friend's going, "What are you doing? There's a dragon and Hanukkah, hoo-ha, what?" How do you know it's worth pursuing and keep those demons away from saying, "Give it up, give it up, give it up"?
I wasn't sure, and I actually had several other stories I wrote about the same time using this dragon. Uh, so what I did is I contacted someone who actually writes children's, since most of what I've written is young adult. And this was the one she said, "Oh, I really like this one,"
Hmm.
because I was including not only the story, but my favorite Hanukkah song, which isn't the one about the little clay dreidel. Uh,
Okay.
and and then so that it kind of started from that. But still, the idea of doing the illustrations, even though I have an art degree, scared me a little bit because I hadn't done that kind of illustration. It's very different from any other drawing that I've done. So I
Right.
kept putting it off
Right.
and I kept putting it off and I kept putting it off until finally I forced myself to sit down, get the paints out, and Dragon's Hanukkah was born, came to life
There you
in
go.
watercolor, which I
And
hadn't done in, we'll say, a while.
right. Now, did you have anybody guiding you in terms of, and I don't know this, I mean, I'm a writer, I'm not an artist. Was there a formatting that you had to learn? So you're working on this watercolor, but were there certain parameters that you had to stay within? And did you learn that on the way, or did it not matter?
Well, a little bit of both. I did a little research before I started doing the illustrations to determine what dimensions I wanted, what size it should be, the price point I should be aiming for, and how long it should be. Which is one of the reasons I ended up adding not only the song, I also put in our family latke recipe and a picture of my great great grandfather's menorah in there. So once I figured out the dimensions that I wanted to do, I started. I did the paintings,
Hmm.
and and the rest I kind of was learning as I went. I've been doing formatting all along through Maryland Writers Association as the publication chair. So I've had a bunch of practice doing that.
Hmm.
But for a um, children's book, a picture book, where I wanted the images to go all the way to the edge. It's called Full Bleed, which I had never done before.
Right.
So the first time I submitted it for publication, I got the proof back. I was like, why are there white lines around it? What I didn't know is you have to add just a smidge to the dimensions when you submit it to account for the trimming.
Right.
So yeah, I those kinds of things I learned as I went.
Yeah. I did.
Figure them out.
Yeah, I did one. I worked on with my cousin on a book that he had an artist illustrate, and we ended up kind of stretching the piece sort of across. I kept it within its ratio, but basically just blew it up a little bit so we could get over those edges. So, I guess the good news was we didn't have to paint anymore. We just had to figure out how to get it to fit. I want to go back to something you said about the size of it. Did you get information on a particular word count that they were looking for a book like this?
Yeah, around 50 words.
Okay.
45 to 50 words for this kind of a children's book. I mean, I was aiming it for a young audience.
Right.
There's not a lot of words in it. It's pretty short.
Right. Right. Well, I ask you that because a lot of times people still focus on page count. Page count's really irrelevant, not just in a children's book, in a novel, whatever. There are too many tricks. You're a teacher, right? You've done
Yes.
Yeah. So I think you're elementary school.
I actually taught high school for 3 years, and then
Okay.
I moved on to an elementary school.
Right. So I thought I was a genius when I was in high school, when I was double spacing and bringing in the margins, things like that. But when you go with word count, you can bring in any margin you want. The word count doesn't lie. So it does give us a much more accurate read of what we're looking for. So 50 is an interesting number. Thanks for sharing that with us. Do you have a place that you prefer to write, an area that kind of gets you in your zone?
I have an office. It
Okay.
was my office before I had children. Then it ceased to become my office. And
Yeah.
since my children have fledged and are no longer here, it became my office again. So I have uh, everything all over the place. I have stickers, and I'm very visual. So I
Right.
have my sticky notes and maps and things for my various books. The painting, however, I did downstairs in the kitchen because that had better lights.
Right. Okay. So let's get to some of the challenges. What do you think is the most challenging part of the writing process for you? And this can be for this book or any of the books you've written, quite frankly, because I would guess that a lot of them kind of cross over.
Probably the editing.
Mm,
That is the most time consuming. And for long, I mean, it was easier with the little short piece. But for especially for longer pieces, I have two different critique groups, each of which give me different feedback. But going back and editing and making sure that a change you make towards the end is you go back and fix things in the beginning and it follows through all the way to the end. But
right.
by the same token, it's fun to discover things while I'm doing that.
Yeah, I actually think it's not pleasant when it's happening, but I think it's one of the most enjoyable parts of writing is when you think you don't have anything to write about. Because that's when, I don't know, you kind of, your brain kicks into a different gear. When you think you know exactly what you're going to be saying, the good news is, I guess you're not anxious putting your hands on the keyboard. But the bad news is, I'm not sure you're really open for creativity. You've got to kind of hit that creative button when you're searching a little bit more. So searching is good, at least in my opinion.
Right. And I do tend to do minimal amount of outlining. Like
Hmm.
I know where it's starting, I know where it's going, and usually a few key scenes in between. But so otherwise, I kind of just start writing.
Right,
I
right.
consider myself a plantser, if you're familiar with the
Yep, yep,
pantser versus plotter. I'm
yep, yep.
somewhere in the middle. Although my last book was definitely pantsed a lot more.
Yeah. I'm more of a plotter myself, but that we all have our. I'm a business writer. Mine are a little bit more process oriented. I'm sort of following this path. Although I keep telling myself I hope not to leave this earth without writing at least one fiction book. I'm interviewing way too many fiction authors and children's book authors, and I've got to jump in and just scratch that itch. So I might be calling you. You can help me out on that one.
Happy to.
How about the marketing side? This is the part
Oh,
everybody goes, ugh. And for those who can't see, she's just shuddered at the word
oh,
marketing. It's okay. The nice thing about books these days is there used to be a very small window where we could market a book. Now we really can just sort of chip away at it. Tell me what, if any, moves you made to market the book.
This particular book,
Yes.
well, I am doing a Hanukkah sale. I have an official book launch scheduled for December 14th, which happens to be the first night of Hanukkah.
Is that a coincidence? I think
No,
not.
not a coincidence. I
Okay.
talked to the Last Word bookstore
Hmm.
in Mount Airy, and she said, "Oh, there's something going on Main Street that night. Maybe you could do the book launch before." And I said, "That sounds like a plan."
Right.
So that's what I'm doing, and I'm planning on having 2 jars and some chocolate coins so people can vote whether they eat their latkes with applesauce or sour cream. I am in the applesauce camp. The one comment my rabbi made when, because I had sent him a draft of the story, said, "The book is great, except you don't have sour cream."
Those rabbis. I wrote a blog one time. I call them blarticles, called "The Schmuck Running in the Rain." And I heard from 3 different rabbis when that posted. The moment I said, "Well, I am Jewish," they went, "Oh, okay." It's okay now. But wanted to make sure I understood that has a few different meanings. I was just looking
Yes.
for knucklehead. But I just didn't think knucklehead worked. And so, yes, boy, the rabbis do come from out from behind the curtains when they hear something that they want to speak up on. Okay, let's move to personal reflections. What advice would you give another writer who's thinking about it, particularly in your space? I know you're in multiple spaces, but I like the fact we're talking about this space, this children's book space, because, boy, if you don't have earmuffs on, there's going to be somebody whispering in your ear, a children's book, you'll never get it published, and this and that. There's a lot of stinking thinking and negative thinkers out there, and you pushed through it and said, "The heck with it! I'm going to get this story told, and I'm telling it." What do you tell other people? Because I know that a lot of people have that dream, particularly parents and things like that. What do you tell them?
Just go for it. I mean, as I said, I dragged my feet a little bit because of the illustrations. That was holding me back.
Mm-hmm.
But then I just, bit the bullet and said, "I'm going to sit down and just do it." I wanted to get this book out. And honestly, I have several other my little dragon here stories planned.
Good.
Not the one I was going to start with. I was going to start with Dragon's Snowy Day, but gotta wait.
Okay. It just wasn't snowing hard enough.
No, it was not snowing hard enough for this little dragon here.
No worries. Want to go back to your launch just for a second, give you a thought and a recommendation. And I'm going to give it to you, but I want other people to hear when you have a launch, that's a very important moment for a book. And you're doing it very intelligently because as a speaker, for instance, we use the word butts in the seats. You can have a great presentation. If nobody's there to hear it, it's not much of a presentation. Same with a party. But you've got a little bit of a group that's going to be coming for this other event, and I think there's going to be some activity around where you are. I'm going to recommend strongly that you not only have that book out there, but have a sweet little thing with a dragon on it and a nice font on how to write a review, okay? And have a link to the book, because many people really genuinely want to write a review. They just get a little bit nervous, particularly if they've never done it before. So let's make it easier for them. And Amy, when this podcast is over, I commit to you that I will give you an example, provide you with an example so you can look at, and then tear it up and just get it your way. But you're really helping people out because, let's get a couple of sales and get a couple of reviews, and you never know what happens. But those reviews are important on Amazon, and I even Aunt Louise will swear she's going to write a review until she gets her hands on the keyboard and they get anxious. Let's have a document in front of her so she can just follow, and she doesn't have to, 2 sentences and I don't walk on water, and we'll put all the rules in there to make this not so difficult for them. Okay.
Yeah, I like that. And
Good.
I wrote down that note to make myself a sign for the event I'm going to tomorrow. By the
Good.
way, I didn't know if you wanted to see any of these.
Oh, I'm looking at some artwork on a dragon right now. You're going to have to go to Amy's website. What's that website again? I forgot.
A.L. Kaplan author.
Okay. You're going to go to A.L. Kaplan author. Are they going to be able to see any of the artwork on that website?
Unfortunately, no, not yet. I
Not
am
yet.
going to start putting a couple of them up here and there, just sort of to get people hyped up.
Good.
I did a puzzle that I put out, adding pieces before the book actually came out in print.
Right. Okay. Your marketing, which just knocks you for a loop there. Maybe you don't want to do this, maybe you do, but another thought I have is, who knows? Maybe you take just one of those pieces of artwork, and you create what we call a lead magnet, which says, "Follow me." Sign up on my mailing list here, and I will send you, one print, not a full print, just an emailed print of the dragon. And so, in other words, when you give somebody something frequently, they'll give you something. So maybe, if not that, something else, maybe a part of the story that didn't go, that got edited out. But the idea here is, let's get more traffic to the website. Let's get more people following you. Particularly, we're going to have some more books, and we call it a WIFM in the world of sales. And it stands for what's in it for me. So I follow you. I get a nice picture of that dragon. Maybe I'll put on my child's room from the author herself. So again, just an idea, or maybe something you could spring off of and make it a better idea. But just a thought, seeing as that artwork does belong to you, and you can control it. Okay.
I like that.
All right. Well, it has been delightful. I loved hearing about your book. People don't, we're going to let you behind the curtain on this one. We had a really funny start. Amy was fine. Rob fumbled the ball, but we got through it. Rob had the wrong Amy. How's that? See? Even Rob Jollis makes a mistake now and then. Not too often, and don't tell anybody. But anyway, I'm glad that you're a very patient woman. I wish you nothing but success with the book, and I'm grateful you came on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Well, you make it a lot of fun. Any case, folks, we'll do it again as well as we can next time. Until then, stay safe.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's guest author, we'd love you to rate, review, and share this episode with others. If you'd like more information on today's guest or the Maryland Writers Association, please visit our website at marylandwriters.org. You can also hear a brief history of the Maryland Writers Association by listening to episode 0.